The air was thick with the scent of decay and old medicine as Akira stepped through the broken doorway of the abandoned Hokkaido hospital. His camera hung heavily around his neck, a tool and a shield against the oppressive silence. He had come here seeking the forgotten, the stories whispered in shadows, but now, standing in the dilapidated lobby, he felt a chill that had nothing to do with the northern cold. The hospital had been closed for decades, its stories buried under dust and time, yet the air buzzed with an energy that set his teeth on edge. Akira adjusted his camera settings, the click echoing too loudly in the empty halls. He moved forward, each step deliberate, his boots crunching on broken glass and debris. The further he ventured, the heavier the air became, as if the walls themselves were breathing, watching. Then, a sound, a whisper, so faint he wasn't sure he'd heard it at all. He froze, heart pounding, straining to listen. There it was again, a murmur just beyond comprehension, coming from the end of the hall. Akira's breath hitched as he raised his camera, the lens focusing on a door slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning. He approached, the whispers growing louder, more insistent. With a push, the door creaked open, revealing a room untouched by time, its windows sealed with heavy boards. And there, in the corner, a figure stood, silhouetted against the dim light filtering through the cracks. Akira's finger pressed the shutter before he could think, the flash illuminating the room for a split second. The figure was gone. Back in his hotel room, Akira scrolled through the day's shots, his stomach sinking. The photo of the room was there, but the figure was not. He checked again, and again, but it was just an empty room. The whispers followed him into his dreams that night, and when he woke, the first thing he saw was his camera, the lens cracked from no apparent cause. The hospital's secrets were not meant to be captured, and now, they had captured him. Break time equals 5s, greater than the dense forest of Aokigahara, known as the Sea of Trees, stretches endlessly before you, a labyrinth of towering pines and twisted roots. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, a natural cathedral that muffles sound and swallows light. You came here seeking solitude, a break from the noise of the city, but the silence of the forest is heavier than you anticipated. The path beneath your feet is barely visible, covered in a carpet of fallen leaves and moss. Your heartbeat is the only sound you trust, a steady drum in the eerie quiet. Then, just as you pause to catch your breath, you hear it, a whisper, so faint it might have been the wind. But the wind doesn't speak your name. Your skin prickles, a cold sweat breaking out despite the cool shade. You tell yourself it's just your imagination, a trick of the mind in such an isolated place. But then it comes again, clearer this time, a voice not your own calling out to you from between the trees. Your breath catches in your throat. You spin around, searching the shadows between the trunks, but there's no one there. The voice grows louder, more insistent, now joined by others, a chorus of whispers weaving through the air like invisible threads pulling at your sanity. Your hands shake as you fumble for your phone, but the screen is black, the battery dead. The voices are all around you now, a cacophony of hushed tones calling your name, urging you forward, deeper into the forest. Your legs move before you can stop them, driven by a primal fear that overrides all reason. Branches scratch at your arms, roots trip your feet, but you don't stop, can't stop, until suddenly, you burst into a clearing. The voices cease. The silence is deafening. You collapse to your knees, gasping for air, your mind racing to make sense of what just happened. Was it real? Were you just lost in your own fear? As you stand, ready to leave this place behind, a single whisper drifts through the clearing, so close it feels like it's coming from inside your own head. Stay. You don't look back. You run, faster than you've ever run before, the forest blurring around you. You don't stop until you're miles away, the whispers finally silent. But even now, safe in the light of day, you can't shake the feeling that something followed you out of the forest. And sometimes, in the quiet moments just before sleep, you hear it again, the whisper of your name, calling you back to Aokigahara. Break time equals 5s, greater than the air in Tokyo's underground drainage tunnels, is thick with the scent of damp concrete and something far more ancient, a smell that clings to the back of your throat like the memory of a bad dream. I'm here because the city's forgotten corners fascinate me, places where the neon glow of the streets above doesn't reach. My name is Akira, and I've explored many of these hidden spaces, but tonight feels different. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the distant drip of water and the occasional skitter of something small moving in the dark. My flashlight casts long shadows that seem to twist and move on their own, playing tricks on my mind. The water at my feet is cold, seeping through my boots, a constant reminder of the tunnel's purpose. I'm not supposed to be here, but the thrill of discovery outweighs the risk. That's when I feel it, a hand, icy and unmistakable, wraps around my ankle and pulls. My heart stops. I shine my light down, expecting to see someone, something, but there's nothing. Just the dark water swirling around my legs. The rational part of my brain tells me it's just the current, but I know what I felt. The whispers start then, so faint I think I'm imagining them at first. They grow louder, a cacophony of voices speaking in a language I don't understand, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. My breath comes in short, panicked gasps as I spin around, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the darkness, revealing nothing but the endless tunnel. The air grows colder, my breath visible in the dim light. I need to get out. I turn to run, but the water seems to thicken, pulling at my legs like countless unseen hands. The whispers are deafening now, a chorus of anguish and anger. I can't tell if they're in my head or all around me. My flashlight flickers, then dies, plunging me into absolute darkness. I'm not alone here. Something is with me, something that doesn't want me to leave. I stumble forward, blind, my hands scraping against the rough walls, searching for an exit. The whispers are right behind me, so close I can feel the breath on my neck. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it stops. The silence is almost worse. My flashlight flickers back to life, revealing the tunnel ahead, empty. I don't wait to see if whatever was here comes back. I run, the sound of my own footsteps echoing like a taunt. When I finally emerge into the night air, I don't look back. But sometimes, when I'm alone in the dark, I hear the whispers again, and I know they're waiting for me to return. Break time equals 5s, greater than the air on Hashima Island was thick with the weight of forgotten lives, the remnants of a bustling coal mining community now reduced to crumbling concrete and rusted metal. Dr. Elena Carter, a cultural anthropologist, had come to document the island's eerie silence, to capture the essence of a place time had abandoned. Her camera hung heavily around her neck, a tool to immortalize the decay. The sun was beginning its descent, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch unnaturally across the desolate landscape. Elena's boots crunched over broken glass and debris as she stepped into one of the many dilapidated apartment buildings, her breath visible in the cold, stagnant air. The initial excitement of her research had given way to an unsettling feeling of being watched, a prickling at the back of her neck she couldn't shake. The corridors were narrow, the walls lined with peeling paint and the ghosts of posters long since faded. Then, she heard it, footsteps, not her own, but synchronized, deliberate, coming from behind her. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she spun around, her flashlight beam slicing through the darkness to reveal nothing. Yet, the dust in the air swirled gently, as if disturbed by someone passing by moments before. Elena's throat tightened, her mind racing for rational explanations, the wind, the settling of the building, anything but the impossible. But the island was known for its stories, whispers of those who never left, trapped between worlds. She forced herself to move forward, her steps now hurried, the echoes of her own footsteps masking whatever might be following. The further she went, the heavier the air felt, thick with the scent of mildew and something else, something metallic. A whisper, so faint it might have been her imagination, curled around her ears, words in a language she didn't understand but felt in her bones. The flashlight flickered, and in that moment of darkness, she felt a breath against her neck, cold and deliberate. Panic set in, her body reacting before her mind could catch up. She ran, her camera bouncing against her chest, the sound of her own terror loud in her ears. The exit seemed farther away than it should have been, the corridors twisting in ways she didn't remember. When she finally burst into the fading light of day, she didn't stop until she was back on the boat, the island a silhouette against the horizon. Back in her hotel room, Elena reviewed the footage from her camera, her hands shaking. The video showed the empty corridor, her panicked breathing the only sound. Then, just before she ran, a shadow moved across the frame, too fast to be human, too deliberate to be a trick of the light. The screen went black, the battery dead. That night, Elena dreamed of whispers and footsteps, of being back on the island, but this time, she wasn't alone. She woke to the sound of her own scream, the taste of salt on her lips, and the unshakable feeling that something had followed her home. The footage was gone the next morning, her camera found in the sink, filled with seawater. Elena never returned to Hashima Island, but sometimes, in the quietest hours of the night, she hears the whisper of footsteps outside her door, and the dust settles just so, as if someone had just passed by. Break time equals 5s. Greater than the night was unusually still as Hiroshi made his rounds through the abandoned theme park in Nara. The place, once a bustling hub of laughter and joy, now stood as a ghostly shell of its former self, its rides silent and unmoving under the pale moonlight. Hiroshi had taken the job as a night security guard out of necessity, but the isolation and the eerie silence of the park had begun to wear on him. As he walked past the rusting carousel, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The security cameras were his only companions in the vast emptiness, their red lights blinking like the eyes of unseen creatures. Back in the security booth, Hiroshi reviewed the camera feeds, a routine check to ensure the park's solitude remained undisturbed. That's when he saw them, shadowy figures darting between the rides, their forms indistinct but undeniably present. His heart pounded as he switched to the live feed, expecting to confirm the intrusion. But the screen showed nothing. The park was empty, just as it should be. Confused and unnerved, Hiroshi chalked it up to a trick of the light or his tired eyes playing tricks on him. Yet, as the night progressed, the figures reappeared on the cameras, moving with purpose, only to vanish when he looked away. The whispers started soon after, soft and indistinct, as if carried by the wind from a great distance. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, a chorus of voices speaking in a language Hiroshi couldn't understand. His rational mind fought against the fear creeping up his spine, but the more he tried to ignore the phenomena, the more pronounced they became. The temperature in the booth dropped suddenly, his breath visible in the air, and the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Hiroshi's hands trembled as he reached for the radio to call for backup, but static was the only response. The camera feeds flickered, showing the shadowy figures now standing just outside the booth, their forms pressing against the glass. In a panic, Hiroshi fled, the whispers following him as he ran through the deserted park, the shadows stretching and twisting around him. He didn't stop until he reached the safety of the park's gates, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon. When the day shift arrived, they found the security booth untouched, the cameras functioning normally, and no sign of the figures Hiroshi had seen. His report was met with skepticism, his experience dismissed as the product of an overactive imagination. But Hiroshi knew what he had seen and heard. He quit his job that very day, unable to shake the feeling that the park and its whispering shadows were not as abandoned as they seemed. The mystery of what lurked in Japan's forgotten corners remained, a chilling reminder that some places are best left undisturbed. Break time equals 5s. Greater than the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon as I stepped cautiously through the overgrown path leading to the abandoned World War II-era military base in Okinawa. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and rusted metal, a testament to the decades of neglect this place had endured. My name is Alex, a freelance journalist with a fascination for the unexplained. I had come here to document the ruins, to capture the eerie beauty of a place frozen in time. But as the shadows lengthened, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. The initial excitement of exploration had given way to a creeping unease. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a bird. It was then that I decided to record some ambient sounds, hoping to capture the essence of this forgotten corner of Japan. I set up my audio device, a high-quality recorder capable of picking up even the faintest whispers. At first, there was nothing unusual, just the expected sounds of nature and the occasional creak of old metal. But as I played back the recording, my blood ran cold. Beneath the natural noises, there were voices. Faint, unintelligible, but unmistakably human. I was alone, yet the voices were there, speaking in hushed tones as if carrying on a conversation just out of earshot. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to rationalize what I was hearing. Maybe it was interference, or perhaps my mind was playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew it was neither. The voices were real, and they were coming from nowhere. I decided to investigate further, walking deeper into the ruins, my recorder still running. The further I went, the heavier the air felt, as if I was pushing against an invisible force. The voices on the recorder grew louder, more insistent, though no clearer. Then, I felt it, a cold breath on the back of my neck, though there was no wind. I spun around, but there was nothing there. The recorder, however, captured a sharp intake of breath, not my own. Panic set in. I needed to leave. As I hurried back the way I came, the voices on the recorder became frantic, overlapping in a cacophony of whispers that seemed to follow me. I didn't look back, didn't stop until I was safely away from the ruins. Back in my hotel room, I reviewed the recordings. The voices were still there, clearer now, but no more understandable. One phrase, however, stood out, a single word repeated over and over: help. I never returned to that base, but the recordings remain. To this day, I can't explain what I encountered there. Were they echoes of the past, trapped in the ruins? Or something else, something that still lingers in Japan's forgotten corners? The whispering shadows hold their secrets close, and perhaps some mysteries are better left unsolved.